They're also calling, waiting for what might not really come to pass. Also just try and make sure they take advantage and make use of what they have. And again, this is also in regards to the uptake of the COVID-19. You can remember that, you know, for the past at least couple of weeks, there's been a low intake of this particular vaccine. So that is what the WHO is saying there. Coming to matters education, and at least what the Teacher Service Commission is trying to do to ensure they kick off this biometric data, where they're now saying that as of today, they'll start implementation of this pilot project that will electronically capture data on teachers. They are saying that this biometric enrollment and validation of teachers, which is termed as a BVOT, will actually, this will be piloted in 143 schools spread across 7 counties, whereby these counties will just be Kisii, Homa Bay, Uasin Gishu, Nyeri, Kilifi, Garissa, and Bungoma. These are the specific counties in which they will begin this piloting of that biometric data, and it's set to conclude on Friday. So it's beginning today all the way through Friday. And also the Commission is saying that they'll conduct a pilot BVOT exercise also from, again, just from today, which is from May 17th all the way to May 21st. The TSC also said that this exercise seeks to improve delivery of services. So the main reason as why they're doing this is just to improve the delivery of services in the entire teachers fraternity, and also saying that the system is therefore expected to effectively manage the growing teacher resource and maintain an uptake to date data on all the tutors employed by the Teacher Service Commission. And again, according to TSC, information collected from this exercise will enable establishment of a database that informs the Commission in policy and decision making, at least to find better ways to continue assisting teachers as they go about giving their different and rendering their different services to students. So that is the main importance of this kind of a system in which they're trying to enroll, at least to make sure that they make it easy for teachers, and anytime they want to come up with different policies, at least to enable the teachers to perform their works and the exercises in a better and smooth way. Victor.
All right. Now, in this town newspaper, Raging Storm, county assemblies now take on judiciary over judgment, and they say that the judgment was not proper and it was a strange one, and they're now demanding that the judiciary stop robbing Kenyans of their sovereignty powers or abusing their delegated indirect powers donated to them by Kenyans. That is that, and as that was happening, Bungoma Senator Moses Otangula also called on politicians to stop maligning judges of a ruling, saying that the courts are constitutional bodies that have to be respected, and those who do not agree with the ruling should seek redress through an appeal, which is happening this morning at the appellate court, at the Court of Appeal, through Justice, that's according to Attorney General Kihara Kariuki, who is going to file that petition today, that appeal today, through Solicitor General Kennedy Ogeto. Now, Wangamati bodyguard attacks Didymus. This happened over the weekend at a funeral in Kimilili, and it happened when trouble started after, that's when Barasa accused Wangamati of failing to initiate any projects in Kimilili. Now, Barasa said that despite Bungoma getting 12 billion shillings every financial year, there was little to show for it, and all the governor was doing was bragging about projects not initiated by the county. At this point, a bodyguard attached to Wangamati shot up, snatched the microphone from the MP and tried to strangle him, to the surprise of the mourners. Now, this is the twist of the story. After all that happened, guess who rescued the bodyguard? Didymus. The mourners attacked the bodyguard, and after Didymus' appeal for the mourners to spare him and all that failed, it is Didymus who walked again to the bodyguard and rescued him from the attackers and whisked him to his car and drove off with him. So, it's a twist turn of events within a very short span of moments. So, choose your battles carefully. You never know how it might pan out. Now, BBI ruling is a temporary setback, says CS Kagwe. Now, this he said during a Mount Kenya leaders castigate as the Mount Kenya leaders castigated 5-judge bench for stopping reggae. He said that they expressed confidence that the constitutional amendment initiative will run to its conclusion. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe just said that as that was just a temporary setback and assured Kenyans that they will get the constitutional amendments that they deserve. He told Kenyans that they should not worry about anything and wait for the appeal as they continue to spread the virtues of the document. So CS Kagwe also said that, you know what, Kenyans, relax and wait for the judgment. How that is going to pan out is going to be a matter of wait and see. And now that story of our Governor Mohamed Abdi, who is going to know his fate today after a report which was chaired by the committee, which was chaired by 11-member committee, Senate committee chaired by Nyamira Senator Okongo Mugeni, retreated to an undisclosed location over the weekend and made their report, and therefore they are going to make their submissions and file to the floor of the House, that is the Senate, today. And the Senate Speaker, Ken Lusaka, said that is the only business that the House is going to debate today in the afternoon. So it is going to be a make or break moment for Wajir Governor, who was accused of lightening of graft allegations by the MCS who have placed on the doorstep of his family at the county. So that, as far as that is concerned, and that Kenya has also reported sharp drop in new TB cases last year. I think this is something that is good to celebrate about, because TB is also one of the top killers in the country after malaria. So it is it's a good thing, it's a good report, and we just hope that it's going to go to, if possible, to bare minimum, 0. All right?
Now, still keeping up with matters of health, there's a reason why myself and reptiles are not kind of friendly. Even the wall on the gecko on the wall gives me goosebumps. Now, talk about snake bites. Yeah. Now, in Baringo, this is something that is quite familiar and common. Now, snake bites was declared a neglected tropical disease by the World Health Organization not too long ago. This was 2018. Now, this has left tens of, hundreds, actually, of Baringo residents dead and hundreds maimed. We are talking about snake bites. That gives me shudders, yeah? So when one is bitten, some people suck the venom. Remember that home science study where you're told to elongate the cut and try and suck out the venom out of the bite area, and tie the victims with a rope and cut the supply of blood that causes complications. Now, when these methods fail, yeah, victims are taken to hospital, and a lot of the time when it's a little bit too late. Now, statistics from the Kenya, it's called Kenya Snakebite Research and Intervention Center. In case you didn't know, it actually exists. Kenya Snakebite Research and Intervention Center. There are over 230 health workers who are trained on antivenom and safe treatment and management of snake bites in Tiati, Mogotio, Aldama Ravine, Baringo Central, Baringo North, and Marigat. Wow, we're talking about snake bites in the 21st century. Now, statistics indicate that last year only, 11 cases of snake bites were documented between March to September. 10 of them were in Baringo South, and one of them was from Barwesa in Baringo North. Now, the problem is the stocks are depleting, and also the issue of customs and belief. According to one of the experts here, they say some believe that it is a curse and it should be treated by herbalists. And you see, traditional beliefs also hinder rescue in the event of a snake bite. Now, these anti-venom Kenyan stocks are from India, and their side effects are rash, blood pressure, cough, sweating, and such. Now, they say that collection of venom and studying of snakes will also enable them to produce locally available anti-venom. How about that? You know, Good Morning Kenya is not just about politics. We also look at matters of human interest. Now, those areas that I've mentioned, Tiati, Baringo Central, Aldama Ravine, Mogotio, Baringo North, and Marigat, We're talking about snake bites. Remember 2018 there, World Health Organization clustered snake bites as a neglected tropical disease. Yikes.
Very interesting. And you know, one fact about snakes, their immediate response to threat is flight. And they will only bite when they are threatened, when they are attacked, and they don't have flight as an option. Now, there's also a piece here on the Daily Nation now that you brought in that animal aspect, Ray. And here they're talking about the jellyfish. There is a species among the jellyfish that is known as the immortal jellyfish. Why is it known as the immortal jellyfish? Well, this is because the only way it can die, it's when it is hunted and killed by a predator. It doesn't die of old age or anything like that. So the interesting bit about it, it was discovered in 1883, and it doesn't have a brain. Jellyfish don't have brains. They just have a complex system of nerves that help them eat and survive. So looking at this particular species, it grows from a planula, which is like the egg. Then it goes to a polyp, which is the second stage, and then it goes to a larva and then adult. So when it becomes an adult, and it is maybe hunted and injured, or it grows old, this jellyfish sort of engraves itself in this mucus that it produces, and it goes back to being a larva. So ikizeeka, inajieka kwa shell yake, and it goes back to being a teenager. And it keeps doing that over the years. And it takes only 3 days for it to like rejuvenate itself. So basically, it never dies. Ikizeeka, inajiambia tu, by the way, I miss my olden days. Let me go recalibrate, reset, and go back to factory settings. When it's injured, it does the same, and it only takes 3 days for it to go back to this polyp stage, then larva, and then it now becomes an adult again. This is like when a caterpillar morphs into a butterfly. Now having to do that over and over and over throughout your life. How amazing would that be for us as humans?
Amazing. And jellyfish, you actually mentioned that, and then I remember that I have had an experience with jellyfish.
You've been stung by a jellyfish before?
Yes. And I didn't even really knew it was one of those events in coast, just having fun with friends out swimming, and then I just feel something stuck on my hand, and I'm like, what's this sticking on my hand? And kidogo, I'm even losing breath. I didn't know it was actually, one of those insects that you need to be very careful on. It's not. Even if you talk about that reinventing itself, it's not something that you.
They actually have one of the most toxic venoms.
Yeah,
among
they do.
The sea creatures,
and it can kill in a span of minutes, very quickly. Oof. All right, since you have something else.
No, I think that's that as we draw closer and closer to the end of this particular segment. Fiki?
All right. Leicester fans, you had a good run of the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, Chelsea fans,
oh, yes.
Sorry for that.
Our very own producer, please mention the names here.
Yes.
We drop names. Our very own producer.
Nata Amos Maliuko.
Yes. But also,
Amos Pito.
Isn't Ben a Chelsea fan?
No.
Are you a Chelsea fan?
No. So, Leicester City, congratulations as the FA Cup winners, and it's going to go a long way because the 63rd minute one goal was just enough to take Blues out of the Blues, they just won that match out of the Blues. Yeah,
Leicester deserved that.
They deserved it.
They deserved it.
They deserved it. They've been fighting for a cup, and I don't know what Manchester United is. Okay, we are talking about Leicester and yeah.
You see, when grown-ups are having a conversation,
I was talking about
Victor,
Leicester City and Manchester. And Chelsea.
Has nothing to do with Manchester.
What position is Arsenal? Let's just be honest. What position is Arsenal?
We are at a strong position 9.
A strong
Arsenal.
Position 9.
Yes.
You're leading from behind.
And you have the guts.
Position 9.
And you have the guts.
Okay.
Like atukona nguvu. You know your points, even if you know the way we convert bonga points to airtime, bonga points to internet, we cannot convert your points currently to buy a loaf of bread.
I don't know why I chose
We cannot convert your points. We cannot convert your points to buy a packet of gold cream milk.
Ray, we started this.
We cannot convert your points
Ray, we started this,
to buy
this show.
yogurt. We cannot convert your.
Victor,
We cannot convert your
being
points
a Manchester United
as
fan.
Arsenal.
Ray, I started this show with you on a
come
very
on.
good note. Why are you turning against me now?
With the budget of your points right now, let's plan with the budget of your points, Victor. Unajua,
Oh my
you
God.
attacked us.
Oh my God.
But you know,
Tuanze. Uko na points 50 plus, mko 50? Is it 54, 56? Let's plan with that.
What?
Even if I was to buy sukuma.
Fine. It's okay.
I can't
It's
even
okay.
buy sukuma
It's okay.
and avocado
You win.
with your
You
points.
win. You
Ray
win.
being a Man
Keep
U
quiet.
fan and being at position 2 is giving her all this.
Why not?
All the gas.
Why not?
Okay. All
When
right.
they put the cut off our Changi number 2, Ebu, who even doesn't have a team.
Na kusupport.
Okay. All right.
Victor, your points cannot be converted to any monetary. Any season ununua vitu zenye mimi napenda
I
maishani.
give up. I take back my words.
Thank you very much.
And
I
move to
apologize.
something different.
But to Leicester fans in Kenya,
Oh, yes.
of course, Tuchel now says that they were just lackluster. Chelsea never gave their best during that match. It was just a 1-0 defeat. But that is football, It can
The
go
end
either way.
justifies the means.
Exactly.
You know that, Victor,
Exactly.
right? Whether they gave it their best or not.
Yeah. That was football.
Yes.
So, top suspect in National Lands Commission officials' murder to be charged today. All right. The case pitting the key suspect in the murder of National Lands Commission, Deputy Director of Communication Jennifer Wamboa, is mentally fit to stand trial. Now, police will today tell a Kiambu court that Peter Njenga, alias Ole Sankale, is fit to plead to murder charges. The suspect also faces other charges, including multiple rapes and violent robberies. All right, so he's going to appear before a Kiambu court today to take plea on the case. Now, he was taken for mental tests and identification parade last week ahead of today's session. So, 2 other suspects in the case, Benjamin Saitoti, a border operator, and David Sempuan Ahada, have been set free and placed under witness protection. They are state witnesses against Njenga. So that's how he's going to pan out. It's going to be a matter of wait and see. Let me just put it this way. At this time and age, with the kind of investment that the government has put on the intelligence and the police, you can never get away with any crime in this country. It's becoming almost impossible for you to get away with it, all right? The DCI is also investing a lot of, of money, intelligence, and so much into it to make sure that the country is safe. So this is just but a warning to anybody out there that it's becoming harder every single day because DCI is just almost everywhere amongst us. So whatever you do, just to be very careful. And just before we go on a break, we are in a few minutes, Uhuru to receive first ship Thursday in Lamu. Now, berths 2 and 3 are 95 and 75% complete. This is a good step, ladies, and I think it's been long coming. The Lamu port has been under construction for quite some time and is going to be, the president is going to receive the first ship on Thursday. Let me just give you the Kenya Ports Authority on Saturday shipped the second and final batch of equipment to the Lamu port ahead of its official operationalization on Thursday. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to receive the first ship to dock on berth 1 in the new port. The Lamu port is expected to have 23 berths once completed and will receive bigger ships. This is a good one and I think is going to complement the port of Mombasa, which usually becomes so much overcrowded. And this is also going to have to help others from the Indian Ocean, from Somalia, and any other international countries. This is a good step for our economy. What do you think so? ladies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, that story has also been featured here on the Daily Nation as the port finally comes to life. 310 billion has gone into this port. And, of course, on Thursday, the president will be there to officially just, see the first ship that will be there, 204 meters long.
Yeah.
And the Camel, belonging to a Denmark-based shipping giant that is Maersk. And after that, there will also be the MV Seagull Bremenhaven, which will be loaded with avocado from Mombasa. And this all will be witnessed by President Kenyatta and other regional leaders. And according to the Kenya Ports Authority official captain, that is Geoffrey Namadoa, he said that MV Camel will be sailing under the flag of Singapore and is a geared vessel that will be able to load and offload cargo without the use of harbor cranes. How about that? That is definitely some good news. And according to the manifest that they have, they are expecting to handle at least 100 containers on the first day in the port. So, and of course, this will be used to also test the road network connectivity capacity to just see how efficient that will also be made. Because not just about the port. From the port, how is the road network? Does it also allow for the port to continue thriving, or it's going to be a hindrance? And the main focus on this particular port will be on a transshipment, which is going to definitely be a game changer for the East African shipping space and the logistic business. But according to Yatani, the port will be officially opened on the 30th of May. So far, KPA has deployed 70 staff to the port, and another additional 100 will be recruited by the end of this week. But also of concern is the fact that, and this is something that KRA has come out to say, is that they are alive to the fact that international criminals have taken note of this port, and they are putting systems in place to make sure that any illicit activities do not take place in this particular Lamu port. It's not going to be used for any illegal activities, and therefore they are deploying all the necessary resources, both human and technological, to just put up that guard of defense. So this is definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, amid all this chaos that we are seeing as a country, the Lamu port is finally coming to life.
And speaking of good news, at least we know that for a while now, especially in the country, we've been battling with the issue of locusts. And yes, the government has at least tried to make some strides and step in regards to curb that. But even as of now, the European Union is set to donate 10.6 billion, and this is to help Kenya as well as the Horn of Africa nation respond to a possible new invasion of the desert locust. Like I mentioned, at least there has been some significant efforts in which has been made so far, and also here in Kenya. But what they're also saying is that the recent rains have, however, enabled the swarms in eastern Ethiopia and northern Somalia to mature and lay eggs. And additional breeding of that voracious pest may also take place in northern Kenya, but on a much smaller scale. And this is why they're also donating this money, is at least to enable the country to be able to deal with, such kind of cases. And this money will also be used for procurement, survey, and control operations in Ethiopia, Somalia, which are the two most at-risk countries, but also will enable a quick response if the situation changes in Kenya as well as in Sudan. So that is what the European Union is said to do, at least to disperse some funds for countries in Kenya as well as the Horn of Africa to be able to deal with some cases of the desert locusts.
Giving you a quick summary as we bring this to a close when it comes to stories that are making headlines across the world, is that there was a fuel crisis in the United States of America following a cyber attack, but now the U.S. gasoline demand has dropped by 12.6% from the previous week. This is because of the diminished craze and panic buying that was witnessed after a pipeline shut over what is termed as a cyber attack. So as we're talking about matters of internet technology and the shift to the digital shift, well, it comes with its own risks there, and one of them is matters of cyber threats. Now, also when we've been talking about issues of Israel and Palestine there, now, well, during his sermon on Sunday, that is none other than Pope Francis, he called for an end to the fighting between Israel and Gaza, saying that the deaths so far were totally unnecessary. At the same time, now China has registered 18 new COVID cases and went further to shut down schools. The numbers are standing at 12 million. That's the number of people who've received a jab, the vaccine jab in China on Saturday only. Remember, all this talking about COVID-19, it has been established that indeed it started off in China, and we've been seeing a diminished, or rather cases going down, decline in cases of positivity rate in China. But now, after 18 cases now, they have closed some schools, maybe just part of measures to just mitigate on the spread of the COVID-19, with a number of new asymptomatic cases, which China does not classify as confirmed cases, was 19 on Saturday, down from 25 the previous day. And the total number of COVID-19 cases in mainland China now stands at 90,847, while the death toll remains at 4,636. So we are clearly not out of the woods, not as a country and not at a globe. Talking about the African continent, Saudi Arabia now wants Sudan's creditors to issue debt relief. Now, the country so far has found support for the drive from the creditors, including the United States, France, and the United Kingdom. If you're talking about the issues of debt and financing our budget, which is just the presentation is just but some weeks away, there's an article here that has highlighted our source of debt, and over the last few years we've seen China taking their large chunk when it comes to Kenya's external debtors. But what is different in the financial year 2021-2022 is that the World Bank has led the pack of foreign creditors to Kenya to help it finance its 3.6 trillion budget for the financial year 2021-2022. Now, according to this particular report, is that the Washington-based institution is expected to give the country 121.6 billion shillings. And the larger chunk of that particular money is going to go into infrastructural projects. So other than that, when it comes to issues of concession or rather bilateral loans, Japan takes the lead with 36.5 billion shillings for the 12 months to June next year. China comes in second with 22.7 billion shillings, which is going to go towards energy and infrastructure billing in the Naivasha-Nairobi standard gauge railway, water and sanitization. And the third highest bilateral lender is France at 18.9 billion shillings. That is then the fourth, Italy at 12.5, Germany 8.2 billion, Spain 2.9 billion, and in a total the country is expected to get 316.2 billion shillings from external lenders. Remember, you can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. We're also going to be keeping tabs with what is going to happen and what verdict is going to be given in regard to the impeachment of Wajir governor. We're going to be keeping tabs on that, so do keep it right here. You're watching Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyera. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbit ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Kama tukiri pesa uonge kwa hivyo huko. Hii chati iliteremka kutoka binguni kakupata kwa mwili.
Wewe mama unafukuza mchungaji. Wacha nikuambie. Biblia inasema tunatingisha huu chafu na
katingishie huko.
Unashauri tasiki unasema actually.
Nasema hivi, umekuwa ukilia usiku na mchana. Unataka mtu karibu na wewe. You need company, my sister. This is time for your breakthrough.
Hebu let me go. Ni nini wewe?
Tufungulie, mlale.
Kwani hapa ni kwako?
Tufungue.
Hebu, unaenda wapi?
Si kwangu.
Kwani hapa ni kwako? Nakuulizaje hapa ni kwako?
Kwa si bibi yangu.
Nani bibi yako?
Huo ni ungwana.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You've never been over to a classmate's home or a girlfriend's home for dinner?
Not even once.
Impossible. Haven't you ever dated a girl before?
What are you doing? What are you doing? Get back to work. You, upstairs. Hear me? Go upstairs.
Do I eat it or apply it?
Are you crazy? Eat it.
Oh.
I'm responsible for all expenses. You're gonna eat it? God!
All right, let's get it started. My name is Victor Lowe, and of course, right now, it's time for Eye on Politics. On the 17th day of May 2021, we have got Muthira Kariara, who is from the Katiba, Linda Katiba, and you remember him. On 2017, I watched him solo doing his time at the Catholic University. You will know, he will tell us how it's going to be in the next election. He's an interesting man, and being the fact that Linda Katiba is part of the petitioners in the case of the BBI, where we got that ruling last week, he's going to tell us more as Linda Katiba what we should expect from today moving forward. So, as usual, send in your comments, questions, or even your comments, and we'll be sampling them at the tail end of this program. So, Muthira, good to see you. Good morning.
Well, good morning. It's a real pleasure connecting with you.
Yes.
And allow me to say this. You actually were the first journalist I gave an interview to after the debate at the Catholic University.
That was in 2017.
So you're a trailblazer.
Actually,
as well.
I remember going to some places and we did a good story. It's still fresh. I know once again we'll do a story about that. And it's good to see that you've made some leaps and bounds over the years. How is it so far?
Well, it's been good.
Right.
Challenging, of course. But we thank God that for every challenge and obstacle, there's a way out.
Absolutely.
And even when we thought that it was definite that we were going to have a constitutional amendment, God made a way that we now have a stumbling block. It will slow down that clamour.
And you must be so happy about this.
Yes. I would be lying to say that I'm not, because the constitutional amendment that was being pushed is not what Kenya needs at this time. This constitution has not had an opportunity to be implemented. There are so many proposals in it that are yet to see the light of day. So what we should have focused more in the beginning, even before COVID came, even before the depression in our economy, was the implementation of this constitution. And by that I mean full implementation. We've not even done the simplest of things like ensuring that we have gender balance. The 2/3 gender rule is yet to be implemented. Even in cabinet, where just by word of mouth the president can have that rolling. So The judgment that came through,
yeah,
that pleases me a lot. And it gives me hope that in Kenya, we still have men and women of integrity who can stand to defend and protect the Constitution.
Did you expect that ruling?
I did.
You as an individual and as Linda Katiba?
Yes, we had a lot of hope that someone somewhere down the road will do the right thing. It's true that the executive has overreached its authority from time to time, and sometimes the judiciary has been cowed to give judgments that favor it.
Yes.
But on these, from the very beginning, there were glaring breaches of the Constitution. And anyone that is sane and serious with their job, they would have done what happened.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that there is talk of an appeal. We know that the Constitution will be protected by those in office today. There's a good precedent.
Yes.
So there's no fear.
And even as we talk about that, even the ruling, there is an appeal that is going to be lodged today. It's not going to be easy. We can say that you cannot celebrate yet as Linda Katiba.
No, there's no reason to celebrate.
Right.
We were just doing our duty as citizens of this country, protecting the Constitution. And by the way, it's not just those state officers that take oath. All Kenyans are required to protect and defend the Constitution. You included the law. So there's nothing to celebrate. Our Constitution was under attack. People rose up to protect it. Yes, there's going to be fight back.
Yes.
But we shall not relent. In fact, this is the time that we should be more emboldened. The courts stood up to protect the Constitution. Kenyans have, in a way, not been very loud about it.
Yes.
But this is their opportunity to come forth and show that the Constitution belongs to Wanjiku. And when Wanjiku is not interested in changing it, nobody else should. Least of all, those in the executive and at the very top, because this was a process that was pushed by the president and his brother. Yes, they are Wanjiku, but when the president took oath of office, he swore to protect the interests of Wanjiku. So let him listen to Wanjiku. And Wanjiku at this time is saying, implement the Constitution.
Yes. What are your major concerns about this, the Constitution amendments that you people raised at the courts? What are some of the specifics? If you can just highlight maybe 2 or 3.
You see, at the very onset, there was a handshake because the country was teetering on the brink of going into chaos. So that came as a result of the divisive elections we had in 2017.
Right.
So the biggest issue was, how can Kenyans harmoniously coexist? The BBI was not addressing that. In fact, it should disappoint you that those pushing it knew that the proposals they were making were going to install tribal kingpins, which would further divide the nation along those tribal lines. So the fault lines would be greater than they already are. And it didn't bother those pushing these amendments. So that's the biggest thing that should keep everyone on their feet to ensure that this does not go through. Now, leave that aside. You look at the proposal to amend the structure of the legislature. Wanjiku does not want that. Wanjiku was very clear from the very beginning that they wanted separation of powers. If you're in the executive, you serve in the executive. If you're in parliament, you serve in parliament. They also wanted to curb on the independence of the judiciary. Now, imagine if that had been curtailed before this judgment. You can be sure that we wouldn't have had the kind of a ruling that we had with regard to this BBI. So those are some of the things that must always keep us awake and alert so that the gains we fought so hard for are not taken away.
It was a popular initiative, and it went through the processes from the moment the handshake was there and to this particular point. Then why are you saying that Wanjiku is not happy? And yet it was a popular initiative. Last week it went through the Senate, the other week it was in Parliament, and now it was going to the President for assent.
Well, the President has the, should I say, the comfort of hiring whatever legal counsel he can.
Yes.
He should have been duly advised that the initiative he was taking on was not a public initiative because he is privileged. He holds office that has a lot of sway. He has resources at his disposal that Wanjiku provides. So from the very beginning, the President should have known that that's not a path that was open to him. And I bet he knew. But we've seen that this government has disregarded rule of law. At some point, they have sidestepped the Constitution. And the Constitution to them oftentimes has been an inconvenience. So clearly, he was wrong. He should be faulted for that. But we can cut him some slack. We say since we implemented this Constitution, we've never had a scenario like the one we have before where we are defining terms more specifically. Like this is what public participation means. This is what public initiative means, etc., etc. So as much as we would like to cut him some slack, we must remind him that he is there because the people donated their powers to him. So he's holding that in trust. He cannot do that which pleases him if it's not what Wanjiku needs.
Is it right to say that Linda Katiba is a de facto kind of a no side of the referendum? Because there is no any other outfit that has come out to oppose this initiative as strong as Linda Katiba.
Well, Linda Katiba is a conglomeration of Kenyans. Let's first get that together. It's you and me, the common people, coming together because we realized that the politicians are doing what they always do, and that's been selfish, pushing an agenda for themselves. So Kenyans came together under the banner of Linda Katiba. It's not a CSO, it's not a registered company, it's not a political party. They're not pushing a political agenda. They're just protecting the Constitution. And they came out boldly when people lacked the courage to push back against the constitutional amendment. And they said no. And I'm proud to be associated with Linda Katiba because this is my cardinal duty. And I urge anyone out there, the judges stepped up for us. They may not be able to sustain it. For us to keep the victory, we have to push back now and say what we've been feeling all along, and that is we do not want for the Constitution to be amended. We want for it to be fully implemented. Yes.
Some people say that the judgment was an attack to an individual, name withheld, and some institutions. What do you make of that?
There is no need to withhold the name. It was clear in the High Court. They said Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And against him, they had three things, and they outlined them.
And some would say that calling the president Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta in that judgment was disrespect to his authority.
I will call you an officer when your conduct and character is at that level that is required. But our president has fallen short. I'll take you back from when he was just sworn in. We had a citizen by the name of Miguna, whose rights were abused, actually withdrawn, denied. There are 13 court injunctions, court orders that were issued that Miguna should be brought back to Kenya. To date, they have never been implemented. JSC did its role, and JSC is a judicial commission, and forwarded to the president a list of judges, and the president has been sitting on that. You look at the most recent case that came up with regard to the appointments of CASs, and it indicts the character of the president. So we will call you president when you show that you're worthy of the title. And besides, it's not the president that was doing the handshake per se. It was Uhuru and his brother. So in court, Uhuru was on trial, not the president of the Republic of Kenya. Yes.
So in other words, it was a president's agenda?
It was not a president's agenda. It was an individual in the president's office agenda. And this has happened before with President Jomo Kenyatta. He changed the constitution when it suited him. President Moi did the same. But when President Kibaki came into office, he followed the right procedure in order for us to overhaul the constitution. And by the way, what they were doing was not amending the constitution. Of the 18 chapters we have, they were changing 13. That was an overthrow of the constitution. A proper process ought to have been followed. It wasn't followed because Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta thought he could get away with it. And the court said, no, you cannot.
Some people say that the judgment was activist kind of judgment. And they said that, in fact, some say that it was activism in courts and politics at the same time. It was not a legal judgment. What do you make of that?
That's not true. The truth is, we have competent judges in the High Court, and they picked the very best. We have bestowed upon them power to act on our behalf, we as the people of Kenya. So they were merely exercising that power on our behalf. They saw the excesses of the executive and they stopped them in their tracks. When you are doing the job for which you have been hired, it's wrong to be called out that you're exercising activism. Those judges are not activists. They are patriots. They stood for Kenya. Let's not call them names. Let's not chastise them. They just did the job for which we Kenyans hired them to do. And I'm sure any judge worth their salt would have come up with the same judgment that they came up with. And that's why I don't even expect the Court of Appeal to make a different ruling. Yes.
Do you buy the stories going out there that the kind of judgment that they rendered last week was sort of a revenge now that the president has not appointed the 40 judges?
No, it wasn't.
What is your view from Linda Katiba?
Victor, the process of amending the constitution was wrong from the very beginning. Two individuals came together, no problem with that. But they are privileged individuals. They should have used the course that's availed to them by the same constitution that they right now are overthrowing. They should have gone to parliament, used their officers, and done the amendments that are allowed through that path. But they hoodwinked Kenyans that they're going to do a public initiative. Can you imagine now they're coming to us and saying that the promoters of the BBI is Dennis Waweru and Junet Mohammed? When all along they've been saying it was me and my brother, and we left everyone out in that talk. So how can it be a public initiative when the people who initiated it have singularly told us that this is our baby? So there, we must not be lied to. And even if you want to believe and you want to support the government and the president, please don't buy into that.
Let me ask this question. Now, what is your position as Linda Katiba? Because the AG is going to appeal this morning, and moving forward, we are going to see, delayed kind of court processes, and in these papers, it's a matter of urgency. So what are you going to do as Linda Katiba?
First and foremost, there is no urgency. Kenya is not facing a crisis.
Well,
changing the constitution is not an emergency.
Right.
The AG is right now acting as an errand person, an errand boy, if I can use the language.
But that is
because
his position, yes.
His boss, the person that appointed him, has been exposed, and right now is actually culpable of prosecution. So, of course, even if it was me, I would run to defend my boss. But that is your struggle. Kenyans are not in it. So do not make your emergency our emergency. As Linda Katiba, we will do just what Linda Katiba is about, and that is defending the Constitution. We hold, if you want to amend the Constitution, follow the right process. And do it not because you want, but because Wanjiko wants that. So we will go to court. We will defend our position.
Right.
Whatever was pointed out is in black and white. There are no gray areas. This is where people say the law is very clear. And indeed it's clear. If we do not get justice in the Court of Appeal, we will move to the next stage. And if you may recall, it was not just Linda Katiba. Linda Katiba was just one of those petitioners in this matter.
Would you mind mentioning some of the petitioners in this case?
Well, there was Third Way Alliance. Right. There are individuals who were enjoined in the suit. A lot of people. And in fact, going forward right now, I hope you've been able to test the sentiment on the ground. Kenyans are now more aware about what's happening. So they'll also want to come in should the appellate court want to overturn whatever the High Court ruled. So this is going to be a litigious process that is not going to end anytime soon. And this is when the president will really regret not appointing those judges that were supposed to be joining the Court of Appeal, because clearly we have a shortage of judges, and now you want to pick and have this process fast-tracked. Let the process follow its due process. It took so long to get us to Thursday. We expect for the appeal process to take maybe another 3 months.
Are you worried that because matters law is not cast on stone, that it has to be done within 2-3 days? This is a process. Are you worried that out of this appeal, we might not be able to meet some of the guidelines and the timelines that needed? For example, the referendum, the tenure of the current parliament might be, prolonged. Are you worried about that?
What I'm worried about is these governments' inability to adhere to the Constitution and to respect court processes and court orders. That's what I'm worried about. But otherwise, we are not operating in a vacuum. We know that in August next year, this government is supposed to go home.
What if it doesn't?
That will duly happen. If it doesn't, that's because we won't be living in Kenya. But if we live in Kenya, this government will go home in August next year. Now, that aside, we know that for us to have a referendum, it's required, or it's good manners. And even in law, there are certain provisions that dictate that certain things need to happen at least a year before the elections. So by the time we are done with the court process, if they fast-track things, I don't see a scenario where, unless we twist and cut shortcuts and corners, we'll be able to meet and beat the timelines. So I guess right now the president should just be accorded a fair chance to defend himself, since his character has been indicted. He has that right. But let's not be rushed. Kenyans are not interested in changing the Constitution.
But don't you think this case is making President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, the Honorable, to become more stronger? Should the appellate court give a stay order on the ruling?
Now, how can they do that? What are they staying? They did not ask anybody to do anything.
Yes.
They just made declarations. And the worst of it is that the individuals you just mentioned, one of them was called out, and it was said that they have breached the Constitution. They have failed the leadership test because they are not in conformity with Chapter 6.
And that you also believe in as Linda Katiba.
It's a fact, and it's not the first time.
Right.
You remember there's a time judicial officers, for doing their job, making the right decision, they were called wakoras.
Yes.
We should have started then. Now, we are right in the midst of a pandemic. Our attention is not fully focused there. We are putting our energy in other things that should not really be what we should be doing. There's a story you ran here before, a couple of minutes, about us opening the ports of Lamu.
Yes.
Those are the things we should be doing right now, not trying to amend the Constitution to appease tribal kingpins, because why we were doing all these was to change the structure of the executive.
But if even so, at some point the Constitution was going to be amended. Whether in the next government or the governments to come, the Constitution was going to be amended. And my question is, Paul Mwangi, who is the Joint Secretary to the BBI, said then it means that the courts will be given more powers to determine any time a government or a nation wants to have an amendment to the Constitution, then the courts will have an upper hand.
It's not giving the courts an upper hand.
Right.
It's just allowing the courts to operate within the law. The people already gave the courts that power.
Yes.
And we also told the executive, you have these powers and you can go so far. So let people stick to their lanes. When the BBI bill went to Parliament, they were allowed to do their job.
Yes.
And they passed it. That doesn't concern the judiciary. When it landed at the judiciary and they reviewed the matters and the evidence, they came up with a ruling. So let us allow for the separation of powers. That's what Wanjiko asked for. Went and voted and gave herself this new constitution. Let us implement the Constitution. The courts are there to apply and interpret the Constitution. And they have done a good job.
Yes.
Whatever judgment they gave, it was well reasoned out. For anyone that is saying, you look at the facts as presented, they did not play politics. They just did their job as any person with integrity and courage will do. So let's not vindicate, let's not vilify a good job when it's done. And I know Kenyans are not used to people doing their job, but these guys did their job. We should laud them. We should praise them. And other officers in government should emulate them.
Okay, at some point, Leader Katiba was not vocal. I personally, I don't know what happened, but is Leader Katiba back to life? Are we going to likely to see more of, the vigorous campaigns against the current Constitution, the amendments? Are we likely to see more of that from Linda Katiba?
Linda Katiba has never been dead. Like I said, it's just ordinary Kenyans that came together.
Yes.
And by that I mean we may have some luminaries because they believe in the rule of law and they understand the terrain in Kenya. But Linda Katiba is you and me. It's the conversations we have every day about how we are going to run Kenya.
Right.
And the only way that we can run Kenya successfully is if we follow the rule of law, if we implement the Constitution, if we apply it correctly. So we expect that Kenyans are now going to be more vibrant and heed the call to Linda Katiba. Because you read The Constitution at the very beginning, it asks and demands of you as a Kenyan citizen to linda katiba.
Yes.
So we expect that conversation to now be louder in Kenyans' dinner tables, in those mogoka places where people congregate, in matatus, in buses, even as people social distance and do stuff. We know that Kenyans now understand that it's their duty to linda katiba. It's not a preserve of the few. And to change or amend the Constitution is not for politicians. It should be done because it suits the people, because it's what the people want, and not just a certain clique of elite.
Okay.
The Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's a document that dictates how you and I are going to coexist harmoniously.
I have a question here. Somebody's asking, has the handshake brought sanity in Kenya? And if so, do we have mass action nowadays?
We do not have mass action politically.
Right.
But we have mass action in other sectors. You remember not so long ago, doctors were on strike. Nurses have been on strike. That's mass action.
Right.
What we do not have is the machozi Mondays we used to have because we were kicking out IEBC.
Yes.
Now, I lauded the handshake when it happened because in just one moment, hostilities ceased. What we were supposed to do after that was to address what ails Kenyans. And not start on a process to amend the Constitution. And what ails Kenyans has been established before. You go to the WACI report and it's well laid down that what causes violence in Kenya is ABCD, and this is how to go about it. What ails Kenya is land, and we have the Ndungu report. It outlines exactly what the problems are and how to go about it. What causes divisive elections was looked into by Judge Johan Kriegler. And he said what we need to do, ABCD. So after the handshake, which was historic and great and good for this nation, we were supposed to go back into these reports and implement them. As we do it in the background of this very progressive constitution that we have. We did not do that because the elite thought they can perpetuate themselves in power by amending the Constitution, and they've been caught in the act. So right now what they should do is wipe their mouths, since we can see they clearly have been in the cookie jar, and hope that they're not successfully prosecuted.
Okay. On that note, we can just take a very short break, but when you come back, you'll tell us what's your plan for 2022. Again, somebody is asking, on 2017, you are at the podium in running for a political seat. So you'll tell us from the horse's mouth. And last week, we also had Honorable Martha Karua, who said that the main intention on the focus of President was to implement the 2010 Constitution, but not to focus on the BBI. You'll also tell us that when we come back. All right, so let's take that break. We'll be right back after a short break. All right, don't go away.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye QuickBin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353, alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye QuickBin ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Every Monday evening we take you back where the action happens. We cheer up your Monday blues.
Our cameras rove all week to cover the latest in the enormous showbiz scene.
We show you what you missed even if you were present.
Grapevine gives 100% support to the local entertainment content.
From celebrity buzz,
music,
fashion,
and all manner of entertainment and youth talent.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m.
Remember what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably
it never happened.
Kupata skiza tune hii curfew, dial star 811 star 816 hash.
Wewe, nitarutisha simu yako tu sahi. Nakimbia mbio, nimetolewa mbio. Unajua curfew ile nimepata kwa njia. Nimepita kwa rati pilo kama risasi kuliko hata risasi mbio. Lakini sasa hivi niko karibu nyumbani bwana. Nitakupiga nikifika nyumbani. Wewe unajua curfew sitaki polisi wanishike. Nitakupiga.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya curfew, dial star 811 star 816 hash. Star 811 star 816 hash.
All right, welcome back. You are still watching Eye on Politics on KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Lowe, and with me I have got Muthiora Kariara from Linda Katiba, and he's telling us more on what we should expect. Now, moving on, I asked a question before we went on a break. Honorable Martha Karua last week said that the main agenda of the president was supposed to implement the 2010 constitution, but not focus on the BBI. Do you buy the same sentiments?
I do. He swore an oath. You remember in Kasarani?
Right.
To defend and protect. And that means he was going to make sure that the constitution is implemented to the latter. He did not do that. And we know Maraga, before he left, he gave an advisory that he should actually dissolve parliament because they have failed on their duty to implement the 2/3 gender rule. And that's just one among other things that have not happened. If the president was keen on implementing the constitution, Kenya would be greater today than it is because the 2010 constitution was a well thought out process.
Yes.
It may not be perfect, it may have its flaws, but if implemented, it has great benefits to us. So what we should do, what the president should have done was first and foremost, give it his all in the process of implementation. But he's fallen short, and I support Martha Karua. She has been firm, she has been clear, and she has always been about implementing the 2010 constitution to the latter. So the president was mistaken to engage in a diversionary project called BBI. He should just have stopped at the handshake because it gave him room to operate. NASA ceased hostilities. The country went back into calmness. He should have taken advantage of that and focused on the oath of office that he took.
Yes.
He did not. And I regret that he was misled.
Yes.
Now, sometimes I've been told I'm not competent enough to advise the president.
Yeah.
But clearly you can see the quality of advice he's been getting from whoever advises him. And it's on any matter. They just always get it wrong. On the constitutional amendment, they got it wrong. And for the remaining bit, I think he should focus on now implementing whatever little he can.
Yeah.
his project, the Big Four, has suffered at the behest of the BBI, he can still save face. He can still implement the bits that are possible. Remember, he's the party leader of the party with the majority in parliament. He has the executive. Recently, he's waiting for the process of extolling the Chief Justice to come to him and he appends his signature. He has the tools and instruments to ensure that the Constitution is implemented. And while at it, let him revisit the court orders that have been given, and especially on Miguna. He can start there and come through the whole process. He shouldn't wait or use COVID-19 as an excuse. The court pronounced itself that the position he created of CASs is illegal. He should just disband that. After he does that, he should read majority of what was put in the judgment, and that is the BBI process is unconstitutional. He should not engage in that going forward at all. That brings my next question.
As leader Katiba, you also believe that the BBI process was unconstitutional?
It is unconstitutional.
Under what grounds?
The process. Number one, we have two individuals who have the privilege of power, saying they're using the popular initiative to amend the Constitution. They were doing that, hoodwinking Kenyans, because they knew that that's the path that would allow them to change even the substructure of the Constitution. So clearly from the very beginning, there was that ill intention to overthrow the Constitution. This document is not an individual's document.
It was not.
It's the people's document.
Yes.
And they were overthrowing it just because they thought they could get away with it. So it's unconstitutional. It's an illegality. The AG should not be using our taxes right now in court to appeal this process. It's a nullity. So the president and his brother should focus. And they have wars in their turfs that they should be fighting and not engaging in the bigger war, because Wanjiko right now is not going to let them keep doing this. Someone asked about mass action and stuff. We are going to see that very soon. We don't want to go there. We don't want to go back into the streets because we have the threat of COVID and we need to social distance and avoid gatherings. Political gatherings have been banned. And in fact, this is something I should talk about because that's another overreach by the president, curtailing people's freedoms of assembly under the guise of we are in a pandemic.
Just before you get into that, you're saying that it was not a popular initiative. Personally, I covered stories. They were all over the country. They started from Kisii County, they went to Garissa, Mombasa, all the counties to sell the BBI. They held rallies and all that. They held public participation. My question is, was Leader Katiba or individuals participate during the submissions, during the public participation?
I told you that Linda Katiba is a coming together of different individuals and organizations. And just to make sure that the process was okay, number one, we went to court. Number two, we were involved in those forums because when you have an opportunity to improve something good and make it better, you take it. But even as that was happening, please, let's not mislead Kenyans. It was the president, the person that got the most votes in Kenya, coming together with the one that came second. Two individuals. It's not the people that clamored for a change in the Constitution.
It had to start with someone.
But it can't start with the president. The president has limited powers. As much as he's a citizen of this country, due to his position of privilege, he cannot initiate a process.
I beg to ask this. During Kibaki's regime, he initiated the 2010 Constitution and we got the new 2010 Constitution. Now, what is the difference now with President Kenyatta and President Mwai Kibaki then initiating the process?
Victor, Kibaki did not initiate the process. The process had begun before Kibaki came on board. And it was because the people of Kenya had clamored for a new constitution. And they followed the right procedure. There was civic education. So there was public participation. Even before we got to the position where we said we are going to have a new constitution. But then these people decided on their own, even before people came on board. People coming on board was an afterthought. If they could just tell us at the steps of Harambee House that we have a new constitution, that's what they could have done. But because the constitution limits what they can do, they came back and they thought, let's now legitimize whatever is going on. So the public participation we've seen, minus the civic education to tell Wanjiku what's happening, what's this all about, those were just afterthoughts to cover up the error they had already made. And we hold on to that, and the courts have pronounced themselves on the matter. We should not belabor the point. We should not waste our time on that matter.
Taking me back to the question I asked you, so it means the whole BBI process is an individual's agenda, the president's agenda?
Yes, and not just any individual, but the ruling elite. It was Baba on one side, and Babangina on the other side.
So that is your biggest problem as Linda Katiba?
No. Our biggest problem is there was an attempt to overthrow the constitution. That must be fought with everything we've got. We will amend the constitution when it's the right thing to do as adjudged by the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya cannot be two individuals. It's a collective responsibility. We have a problem. We understand what the problem is. We sit down and then we determine that in order to come out of this problem, we need to amend the constitution. But it can't work backwards. That we want to amend the constitution and then we now go back.
But the question is that having a popular kind of a stand as Kenyans talking about amending or changing some clauses in the constitution might not be that easy. It had to start from somewhere. But as that may be, now the verdict is going to be read out in a few days' time, whichever that might come out. But the AG, Kiara Kariuki, is in court today. Are you also going to have that spirited effort to make sure that doesn't sail through? To counter it?
Linda Katiba will counter whatever effort will be made to keep the BBI process alive. The courts have said it's an illegal process. It's unconstitutional. They want to amend the constitution, let them go back to the very beginning. Let's get the process right from step one. Anyone not doing that should be met with whatever force we can summon as the people of Kenya. So to court we will go, even if it will have to end up in the Supreme Court. And I'm glad right now the Supreme Court is well constituted, so no problems there. And we hope the men and women of integrity in those places will stand up and overcome whatever challenge they may face. So because definitely, and we've seen it before, there'll be arm twisting, there'll be underhand games. But the will of the people, which at this moment is we do not want to change the constitution, will prevail. And even if they do go ahead, they will face the wrath of the people. Victor, I am not from those circles in the ruling elite. I interact with the common man on the ground, and they are not interested in changing the constitution. They are not interested in having tribal kingpins. And they do not want to divide Kenya into those tribal cocoons. That's the worst thing that the BBI amendments were going to bring. And must be resisted.
As Linda Katiba, are you going to have a consolidated petition against the petitioners now, or you are going to go to court as Linda Katiba?
Well, fortunately, at this moment, it's just going to be one.
Yeah.
The whole matter was consolidated into one. So there is a collective team. It's not just Linda Katiba.
Yes.
There are other interested parties with whom we are working.
Right.
And what we need more is for Kenyans to now come out in their numbers via social media, via other platforms, to show solidarity.
Right.
Because the moment we die is the moment we stop to talk about the things that matter. And right now, it matters most to defend our constitution from the attack by the executive.
Yes. Again, somebody's asking, is Linda Katiba an activist group?
Linda Katiba, myself, Mudiora Carrera, I'm a politician. I'm not an activist. I'm just an active citizen in the space that I need to be right now because our freedoms as a people have been infringed upon. We have activists, people who have given their lives to defend what's good for Kenya. They are part of these movements and initiative. We have CSOs that are backing whatever is happening right now. So Linda Katiba has the face of the people. We are not registered. We are just a collection of people who are doing good for this nation.
Yeah. And again, Fadhili Kamuti is asking, who funds Linda Katiba?
Linda Katiba, and you mentioned earlier that we seem to have fizzled out. We were not so bold and vocal. It's because we lack the resources that the people fronting the BBI have. We are doing whatever we can with whatever little we've got. I'm here in my capacity as an individual. And that's what every other Kenyan out there supporting Linda Katiba has been doing.
Yes.
It's been mentioned that we have money from donors, from whatever international organizations. When we get that, we appreciate. But it's because they're supporting the good work we are doing. But otherwise, we are self-mobilized. We are not doing these with any ulterior motive. Our goal is to safeguard the interests of the Kenyan people.
What is the lifeline of Linda Katiba? Are we going to see you now getting more stronger, even moving forward, or is just for this particular period and then all of a sudden we stop to see you exist?
Our goal is not to grow strong.
Right.
Our goal is to just be strong enough to defend the Constitution and to ensure that the mutilation that was about to happen does not go through.
Yes.
We have no political interest. So if you're asking if we are doing these so we can position for 2022, that's not what we are about. These are just honest, sincere Kenyans that want what's best for this nation.
Yes.
So please spare us the talk we've had out there about other affiliations. We are not affiliated to any political outfit or individual.
Yes.
Personally, Mudiora Carrera, I'm the party leader of the great nationhood party of Kenya. But I'm not pushing a political agenda through Linda Katiba. All I'm saying is it's my duty as a Kenyan, together with the members of TGN, to protect and defend our constitution.
Right.
So let's just do that one thing. Succeed at it, and then the ground will be leveled for us to do our politics in a hygiene environment where there are no games, no hoodwinking, and we don't run Kenya on the whims of certain individuals.
Okay, we are stuck with time, but last question is, are we likely to see you in 2022?
Well,
in 2 seconds.
I thank Kenyans for the love and support they gave me in 2017.
Right.
We've been working on building a new political party. That's the Great Nationhood Party of Kenya, which said no to the BBI constitutional amendments.
Right.
And TGN is going to feature prominently in the 2022 general elections.
All right.
I was on the presidential ballot in 2017,
in 2017, yes.
So definitely my ambition doesn't go any lower.
Okay. Okay, so you know this is the national broadcaster. We will call you back to tell us more when the right time comes and even tell your manifesto and even moving forward. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Time flies when you're having some good time, you see?
I tell you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you as well as our viewer for giving us your precious time. Let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Victor Lowe, but we are not yet done yet. The show continues after this break.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You've never been over to a classmate's home or a girlfriend's home for dinner?
Not even once.
Impossible. Haven't you ever dated a girl before?
What are you doing? What are you doing? Get back to work! You! Upstairs! Hear me? Go upstairs!
Do I eat it or apply it?
Are you crazy? Eat it!
Oh.
I'm responsible for all expenses. You're gonna eat it? God!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
She can do that because Alan is going too. It's not the first time Juliana is helping you. I really need to see you.
Well, I'll have to see if I can transfer her.
It's all right. If you take her to Chiapas, then everybody will find out that she's already dead.
I'm sorry that I didn't tell you right away. But I didn't want you to have any false hopes about this. But it seems everything is telling us that your mother is still alive. And she's in Guatemala.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Kama tukiri pesa uonge kwa hivyo huko. Hii shati iliteremka kutoka binguni kakupata kwa mwili.
Wewe mama unafukuza mchungaji? Wacha nikuambie. Biblia inasema tunatingisha huu uchafu na
katingishie huko.
Unashauri tasitiki unasema actually.
Nasema hivi, umekuwa ukilia usiku na mchana. Unataka mtu karibu na wewe. You need company, my sister. This is time for your breakthrough.
Hebu let me go. Ni nini wewe?
Tufungulie, mlale.
Kwani hapa ni kwako?
Tufungue.
Hebu unaenda wapi?
Si kwangu.
Kwani hapa ni kwako? Nakuulizaje hapa ni kwako?
Kwa bibi yangu.
Nani bibi yako?
Huo ni ungwana.
There we go. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far from that political conversation. We now want to move on to our family check topic of discussion today, and we welcome you to be part of this conversation. Remember, our communication platform still remains open. On Twitter, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. At KBC Channel 1 remains to be the official station handle. My handle is at Jane Womboy. Now, thank you to everyone who's already checked in so far. Selector Arafat, I appreciate you seeing there. I can see our super producer Mr. Ben Kamote pale Twitter. William Waburi anasema when I grow old, I don't want to be dormant, a volcano where I may be likely to erupt in the future. All right, that is William Maburi, always tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's also retweeting all our feeds. We thoroughly appreciate you. But please check in. We'd love to know which part of Kenya you are watching us from. Robinson McBride, I see you pale Twitter. Let me just refresh my feed. Now na PDU, asante sana kwa tune in. Young Professor, shukran sana for being with us. Jeff, thank you so much for tuning in. United Zone, sijui ni United Mgani? But thank you so much for being with us this far. Keep talking to us. We welcome you to be part of this discussion. Now, as mentioned earlier on in the intro, today on our Family Check segment, we are going to be talking about how to handle disappointment. And when you talk about disappointment, it's a very big topic. But today we want to narrow it down to post-exam stress. And this is specifically exam result-related stress. Just the other week, we had the KCSE results put out. So many grades were attained, and there was a grade that each individual had. But now for many people that did not get the grades that they want, and especially our children, they are in a state of disarray. They are disappointed, and they probably do not know how to handle themselves during this time. You know, feelings of guilt, worry, disappointment, being left out is what is dominant as they are experiencing this time and space that we are in. So today we are here to have this conversation. It is necessary to have this conversation because, you know, just going back to that space when I got my results, it's not what I was thinking I was going to get, but you got what you got. So what is the next step to move on from that point? And today we have two guests with us to help us with this conversation. In studio, we have with us Penina Maluli, who is the director of Stir with Pearl. Karibu sana Penina.
Asante.
Thank you for always making time to be with us here on Good Morning Kenya. And also joining us via Zoom this morning from here in Nairobi, we have Fred Abok, who is a mentor, motivational speaker, and a counseling psychologist as well. Good morning, Abok. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, asante sana, Jen. It's nice to have to be here on the line. Thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely. Now, let me just start with you, Penina, here in studio. You know, when we talk about disappointment, for most people, disappointment is not something that we like experiencing. But from your standing, why is disappointment a necessary part of life?
Okay, disappointment is supposed to be something that comes after what you are expecting does not come through to you. As you have said, we are going to exams. It's like someone, when they were reading and what they are expecting and the school that they were in, they were having a very high expectation, the parents and even the principals. But if you check at this time, you will see that there is a very big difference on what people usually expect, which school comes up and which comes down. So there is a lot of disappointment among most of them. And now this disappointment, when it has hit you, if you are not able to overcome it, and you are not able to, the people around you does not give you support, you go to depression. And usually what we need to narrow down this morning is about the parents, because the parent is the person who will cause this child either to take poison, drop themselves in the dams if we have had such cases, because we have had very bad cases where somebody had what they got, they didn't get home, they dropped themselves in a dam. Others had to take poison because they know who they are going to face at home. So this is the time that parents, we need to calm down, because the period has not also been very easy. Education was not as it was, and even the process was quite different.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me come to you, Abok. You know, just looking at the same aspect, you know, disappointments being a necessary part of life. Why is this important for us as a people to experience disappointment along the journey?
Okay.
Let me get to hear from Abok first before we get back to Penina. Abok.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much. I think it's important to understand that life is made up of dynamics, and it is inevitable to understand that in those dynamics, there are times that things will flow our way, and there are times that things will go off our way. When they go off our way, the issue is not how they go off our way, but the issue is how do we respond when they don't go off our way. Disappointments are inevitable because disappointments are learning circumstances that help us to get to understand how to both deal with life, but also how to maneuver through the challenges of life and even be better people in life. So disappointment should not be something that is locked out of our environment, but needs to be accommodated because it's also an avenue for success. You know, I said disappointment is another name for an appointment. So wherever you see a disappointment, you need to get yourself ready for an appointment at a certain point. So disappointment are inevitable. Nothing, everything that you see on the face of the earth today must have gone through a disappointment process. Any perfect thing, whether it's industry, whether it's marriage, whether it's academics, someone to see them on that particular level must have gone through a disappointment scenario at one point or the other.
All right. Now, let's get to understand, when we talk about disappointment, and especially with results and exam related, parents have such a huge role in ensuring that they don't blow, this exam stress out of proportion for their children. So let's start looking at things that we as parents should stop doing. And number one, it is result shaming. And this is something that I found to be very prevalent in so many people that I've interacted with. We have parents who shame their children because of the results that they got. Why is this very detrimental, and it contributes to further disappointment within the child?
You know the disappointment is double. It comes to the parent, it comes to the child. Because when the child has not done well, the parent also is disappointed. And exactly, disappointment is like a deferred hope. You had hopes, but they are deferred, and that makes your heart sick. And when your heart is sick, you may not be able, when your body is sick,
yes,
the doctor will treat you. When your soul is down, you can be done some therapy. But when your heart is sick, it is not easy. So that is when now we need now to come to accept what has happened, because it doesn't matter what has happened. Life has to continue. And it's good to have an open mind as a parent and as a child. Have an open mind, because if he has got a C minus and you are expecting a A, there is room for bridging those relevant subjects, or go for a diploma.
Yes.
Because if this child, you depress them and they die or even get into drugs, you have lost a child. So this is a time now to preserve what we have. Oh, we have lost, but we need to preserve what we can be able to hold.
Okay.
It has to be a joint effort from the parents and even the society, because sometimes you find people around you. That's why you are told to avoid people who speak negative, because they kind of speak bile. Bile is when you stir up that bile in you. And it also is like taking salt and rubbing it on your wood. Why should you accept that? Life is personal. You make a choice. I don't want to listen to these people. I choose to move and have an open mind, and you'll be able to move on. And both sides have to accept the situation and move on.
All right. Abok, let me come to you, still looking at the same aspect, just looking at things that we need to stop doing as parents. And number one, I have found that result shaming is something that most parents do, even to a very subconscious level, but it's very detrimental when it comes to our children's well-being.
Very important, Jane. I think it's important to understand that success is not a final, because failure is not part. But to shame results is to minimize life based on a particular incident or an event. Life is dynamic. The fact that someone failed on a particular area does not mean that they are failure in life. So when you're shaming them, you are actually telling them that their life is surmounted to that one particular incident, that they maybe something may have happened, or may have not gotten right, and you're surmounting it onto that. It is more important to understand that the cosmotability of life depends on the discipline that someone has. And failure is a reflection of what did not go right. So when you begin to narrow it down into shaming it, you are actually surmounting life to that particular incident. The fact that Usain Bolt did not win 100 meters one time does not mean that he's not a good runner. Maybe he had a muscle or the other thing. You can just encourage that person to give it a try next time, or give them an option. And what parents need to understand is that the dynamism of life is based in such a way that you should devoid of competitiveness and approach it holistically, so that the child can see the avenue not based on one particular angle, but on a holistic dimension. So I do not support shaming of results, But I would rather instead encourage parents to holistically encourage their children and be able to motivate them to be able to diversify in what they're doing.
Now, okay, from that point, let me just also still stick with you, Abok, and look at the next aspect, and this is all about comparison, and this boils down to even comparing your children to their siblings and the results that they got. Comparing your child's current results to their siblings' previous results, why is this a no-no for parents, and we need to just stop doing this?
It's important to understand as a parent that every time that you give birth to a child, every child is unique. That's why you discover that you do not give birth to them the same way, they do not grow the same way, and of course they do not respond to life the same way. Now, comparison is minimizing your child or stereotyping them to behave in a certain manner that their colleagues do. Now, when you're comparing children, you are actually denying them the opportunity to be themselves and bring out in them. So comparison limits the ability of dynamism of a child to explore life regardless of what is unique in them and ascertain the compatibility that they can be able to bring within the family. When you're comparing a child, you are actually making them to limit the deep gem that is inside of them, and so they try to be basically like the others you're comparing with them. They may not be good in school, but they're good in sports. They may not be good in sports, but they're good in their discipline. So you need to look at every child based on some of the giftings and the dynamics that they have, and be able to allow them to thrive in those dynamics rather than comparing. So comparison is a no for a family to be able to thrive.
All right, let me also come to you, Penina, just looking at the same aspect of comparing your child's current results with maybe their siblings or neighbors or a distant relative's result. This being a very detrimental factor to our children's coping with the results that they got.
And that is very wrong, because you can never compare someone with another. Because I can give you a case study that I took this morning of a lady who happened to repeat during Standard 7, repeated Standard 7 twice, Form 6 twice, and when she just got a scholarship to go to the US, she got pregnant. and the parents were like, so do you want to get married or you want to go to school? She said, I want to go to school. She got a scholarship to India, got birth there, stayed there for 5 years, and came and became a very senior person in the government. And now she's retired. And I was looking at, surely, if these parents were looking at, this is a true failure, Standard 7 twice, Standard Form 6 twice, and now you are pregnant, and the scholarship is ready. Some people will just tell you, walk out of my home. We need to have, as parents, we need to be able to calm down and look at our children and even study them and know their strengths and their weaknesses. There are people who are not meant to for going too much in education, but they will be very strong in another area. And maybe they come to become the people that will take care of that family in a way that you could not be able to understand. If you start looking at neighbors, parents ask one problem which you don't understand. Like, I'm looking at you as my colleague. What did your child get? So I'm trying to compete with you, but I'm hurting my child. So anything that you say at that time when the results are out, those words that you speak at this time, they may hurt that child and never forgive you and never tell you.
All right. Now, still looking at that aspect of, comparing the results, there comes in another aspect, and this is something that might not be as prevalent, but it's something that is still there, and it is silence. Parents who don't say anything at all about the child's results, and especially if they are not what they hoped that the child would get. Being silent.
It is the worst. That is the worst. It kills. Because the child does not know what next move you are taking.
Yeah.
And you are also killing yourself by being silent. Because when you are silent, there is poison coming inside you, and which is also killing you. So the best thing is just to talk. Have a family conversation, have another table, and see which is the way forward, because there's a solution. And as my colleague here said, disappointment is an appointment in the other way. You never know, after this, Maybe you could have gone this way and you were supposed to go this way through a diploma and get somewhere better.
Okay.
Yes.
Abok, looking at that aspect of being silent, and I can already see somebody who's saying silence is death for our children. Just paraphrasing, just to get TV-friendly language, silence is death for our children when it comes to our results from parents. Looking at this aspect of parents choosing to be quiet and not say anything to their children about the results that they got, and especially if they're not results that they hoped the child would get.
Great. It's important, Jane, parents to understand that God has given them a responsibility to, number one, be priest over the children. Priesthood is an environment or a responsibility of governing your child by nourishing them, assuring them that they belong and they are worth and it's possible with them and they can make it regardless of these challenges. The number two thing is that parents are supposed to be prophets of their children. Prophets in that they need to call out the best in their children. They need to call the doctor out of them. They need to call the profession out of them. They need to call the greatness out of them. So when a parent gets silent, when a child either fails exam, they are actually, number one, great responsibility to them, but also number two, they are doing an tremendous service to their children is that they deny their children the opportunity to know their place in the society, live along the family. Now, a parent is very essential in that when you speak a word, that word goes forth. The Bible is clear of things that words the parents have spoken into their children, and their children became those words. The society is about your parents speaking. And your parent can tell you, I see engineer in you, I see greatness in you, and then you begin to work on that. And that's why we say that parents are lions in their children. In that whenever they speak, there's a confidence that comes out of their children, and there's an affirmation that comes out. So it is detrimental for a parent to be silent, especially in time of crisis and disappointment.
Absolutely. Now that brings us to another aspect, and this is about forced repetition. Just from what you have said, when we have, as parents, we force our children to repeat the class because they didn't get the grade that we parents wanted them to get. Is this something you would tell parents to stop doing, or you would advise them to do it depending on the situation?
There's the issue of if you have not got the right grade, you go to the TVETs. TVETs is where you go, maybe you go, you know them, eh?
Yeah, technical.
So, the technical. So, it is supposed, I don't think it's supposed to be an issue of, like, using force. It's good to dialogue with your children. Because at that level, if you start dialoguing with them, they will become decision makers even in their own life. But if you start pushing and using it's like when some parents would say, I want you to become a doctor, and they want to push you to become a doctor. Yeah. And maybe by birth, you're a saloonist, and you will become a very rich person as a saloonist. So sometimes it's not good to push. It's good to repeat if it will make any difference, but don't use force. I don't think it's good for use force.
Don't forcefully make your child take the class.
Especially this time, when you use force, you destroy.
All right.
Yeah.
Abok, do you agree with Penina when it comes to forced repetition or exams, even for that matter, that parents make their children go through just because they didn't get the grades that they think are right?
I agree with Penina 100%. The Bible says, come let us reason together. Now, life is about reasoning. And reasoning is about pointing out the blind spots and helping somebody to have a directive of what they need to do. We are counseling. Counseling is what I do part of my day. I do not tell people what to do. I direct them, I guide them, and I support them into what they need to do. Today's young people are looking for someone to reason together with them and help them to be able to get the direction. When you reason together with your child, you help to illuminate the things that you may have not been able to see. And then when it picks up a direction, it feels responsible for the direction. When you force a child to repeat a class, you are actually, number one, right now schools are going on with age. It will be older than so there is an element of feeling out of this. Now, education has a lot of a student. When the psychology is distorted, the mental key for this person to be able to reason and bring out the best is actually challenging. So let us reason with the student, with the child. Is there something that is optional, or if they are repeating, are they repeating out of their own initiative and not you forcing them? Let them be in a position to see the need, not.
All right. Now, let's move on from what parents should stop doing, because they're not just here to point out the problems. We're also here to help out with solutions.
Yes.
And for those who may not know how to handle this situation, we are here to give you pointers in regards to what you can do. And number one, it starts with acceptance.
Yes.
How far does accepting your child's result take the both of you when it comes to alleviating the pressure that comes with disappointments? Let me start with you, Penina.
Accepting is the key thing, because whether you say no or yes, life has to continue.
Yes.
This has happened and it has happened. So when you accept and know that there is no way to change this, but we have to move on, you will have a solution. And the first thing is to make sure this child, you speak to them in a way that they feel you accept them the way they are, because you may also destroy them. Because there are two ways. The sooner you accept it, you know it's better for you. And you may find someone who may go into drugs and even doing things that will cause them forget what has happened, because nobody is supporting them. But if the parents and the people around that person will show that child, it has happened and we support you, you can move on and you can become even a better person after this, it will be very easy for them. But if you leave that person alone, that's where you find suicide, you find things that has happened. Somebody gets into drug, and they could, maybe that person was very, very excellent in education. Yes. Something happened during the exams. Maybe he got a shock during the exams at that time, and he could do better later. So if you destroy them because of your expectation as a parent and expectation in the society, you destroy your child. Okay. And this is your property. It is yours. So it is you to preserve.
All right.
Yes, so acceptance is very key.
All right. Abok, looking at the aspect of acceptance, and especially from a psychological standing, what consequences does just acceptance being the first step has, and especially looking towards the good of the child?
Great. Two aspects psychologically. Number one, acceptance reflects the element of an in that this you own that yes, this ID. How many people do not attend? How many people chicken out because of fear? But you made an attempt, and you know you are accepting that an effort that I put in place. I mean, I'm not worried the ultimate goal, but there is something that I put in place. But two is that you accept in that you resonate and you take note that you own the process, and you say, these are my results. You know, they may not be pleasing, but they are mine. They may not be lucrative, but they are mine. They may not be the standard that I, but they are mine. And if they are mine, what can I be able to do with them? Because it is out of acceptance that now you get to adjust. And adjustments come from the point of ownership. When you own something, you begin to say that is lucrative and admirable to yourself.
Now, I like the fact that you brought in that aspect of acceptance leads to the next stage. And this is all about now involving your child in this conversation. And number two, getting to hear your child's opinions, regardless to whether they like it or not. Let me just pick up from where you left off, Abok. Getting to involve your child in this conversation and just hearing what they have to say as part of what you should do as a parent. Why is that vital?
It's different to involve child on the process, because they should understand where it pinch most. Now, being of disappointment felt by the child more than the parent, as much as the parent may actually feel the feeling, but the children feels it more. And both of them, they get to craft the means and the ways and the know-how on how to actually be able to make it better. when it clicks onto them, we always tell students on our group counseling that results are feedback. If you get it well, you don't do it for your parents, you do it to yourself. And we involve our children in the process. We guide them, or we get to understand their way of crafting the way out and how they're actually moving. How are they going to advance in this situation? Because you cannot get yourself dry up on where you are. You need to move to a certain state, and moving to a certain state, it involves the individual to take a step, whether in faith, mentally, psychologically. You are the one to take a step and move on to another.
All right, Karina, just looking at the same aspect of involving your child in this conversation in terms of moving forward and not just making decisions for them based on what you think is available or what they can do with their grade. How vital is it to involve them and just get to hear their opinions about their grades and what they hope to get to do rather moving forward?
Yeah, it is very important to have a discussion with them, because you know when you engage your child, you even come to realize that person is wiser than you thought, because the kind of words they will bring out when they are free, because now they have been given the position even to express themselves, so the fear has been taken away. They will be able to express themselves and even bring out what they never knew they have in themselves. And this will lead them to be able to know what do they want. Because even when they are at school, they are told to choose their careers. But sometimes they're not guided the right way. But when that person has gone through pain and comes back to their normal levels, they are able to know exactly what they want. And they'll be able now to make a decision. Can you allow me maybe to bridge these few, maybe 2 subjects that I failed? And then I'll be able to do my degree, what I could have done. Or let us agree that I go for a diploma, but not at TVET. But if it depends on how it was. But when you put it on the table, there will be peace between you and the child, and there will be a flow.
All right.
Yes.
Now, this next aspect involves parents mostly. And we have parents who go about telling everyone about their child's grades. And this might not be something that the child is open to, because, again, it could have been a grade that they were not hoping to get. So would you advise parents to just be careful with who they tell their child's grades to, because you never know the intentions of the other person?
Yeah, sometimes it's not as good as people think, that just opening up what your child has gone through. Maybe to you, you're happy.
Yeah.
Maybe to them, they're not happy. And when you discuss this and they discuss with their children, and maybe he goes out and meets someone who, as we have said, some people are toxic in how they speak, then someone will woo that child. And maybe you say it out of good thing. The way you are talking, you are saying it out of good heart.
Yeah.
So it's good to be wise, to know who do you share with about your children. It's not necessary. Yeah. Not unless you know exactly what they want.
Okay. Well, just looking at that aspect of parents who could be happy with the grades that the child got, but the child, on the other hand, is not happy with the same grades. So you find the parent is going about telling people, my daughter got a C+, my daughter got a B, my daughter got a C-, very proudly, but they are not considering what the child might think. Is this something you would advise parents to be careful of, especially from a psychological standing?
True. I want to look at this from 2 perspectives. Number one is that when it comes to the parent psychological dynamic, especially when it is success, it's a bit challenging to deny the parents an opportunity to express their pride, their appreciation, and the dynamic. But of course, what I always advise parents is to be moderate, because not everybody you are sharing with has the same joy and the same way you are looking at the thing. So be moderate on the way you are sharing, because sometimes that is not what your child expects. But also, why can't you also take time and agree with your son or your daughter? What you got, should I share it? What do you think about it? Because when you've got the permission of the child, because he is the owner of the result, it goes a long way. The government has a spokesman. That means that, things need to come out through a channel, and they need to be authenticated and validated before they are communicated. And so let the child give you the permission to share. If they have not given you the permission, please avoid sharing it. you will actually be helping on the psychological dynamic and the well-being of that particular child. But also number two is when you share, it is an avenue of opening a downside for your children. Remember, success or disappointment is not the issue, but the reaction is the issue. What are people saying? What are the things that comes into your ears? The things that will come to the ears of this child as a result of your sharing will determine the progress and the growth of this child. So it is important to not open that avenue so that it doesn't open a window that will be very challenging to control some of the dynamics that will come in as a result of it.
Okay, now looking at those dynamics that may spill in from this path that you as a parent open, when it comes to making available avenues for your child to be able to communicate effectively, would you suggest to even get professional help and even counseling for your child to help them navigate during that time, and especially if they are, you can see they're leaning towards the disappointment side? Is this something you would advise?
I would advise professional counseling, because sometimes some of these things are psychological. And Jane, I deal with a lot of issues of mental health. And when I get to dig into some of the root cause of some of this mental issues, they came as a result of the way some challenges were handled on the initial stages. And so it is important to get a professional to handle some of these issues, because the repercussions could be dire in the field. And when they are handled professionally, it in that they can be guided on in how to deal with the pragmatic situation and get the better results out of them. And so I suggest that a professional counselor is important. But also, as a parent, you are the first step that the child meets. So try to be as positive as you can, because maybe some parents cannot be able to afford professional counseling, but they can speak positivity to their child. Because every time positive walking, there is an element of towards positivity.
All right. Penina, you say on that, as a parent, getting to a point where you accept that there's only so much that I can do for my child. Maybe at this point, I should get them some professional help. Is that an avenue or a path that you would advise parents to consider when it comes to helping their children post-exam stress?
Yeah, it is very important. If you feel that the way you address your child, you are not accessing that child, and maybe you are not giving the solution, you may get professional, or you may get someone who is close. Could be the pastor, could be the youth pastor in their church.
But someone the child trusts?
Someone that the child trusts. Maybe you may take them to a professional, a psychologist, then they will fear even to express themselves. But if you get someone that they trust and you see they are close to, they'll be able to open up.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to helping your child move forward and making a plan together and just looking at the available options, at how soon do you think parents should start looking at this option? Just looking at that space after you've gotten the results, how soon would you advise parents to start looking at available options for the child with the grade that they have gotten?
And immediately after the exam, the parent also gets struck, and they are also disappointed.
Yes.
So it's the first thing the parent must overcome their own disappointment and accept to be able to help their children. Now, immediately, I don't think there's need to take long, because you don't know what action the child may take. The first thing is to bring a close person. Yes. It's a relative, because children always have someone close in the family that they trust. That you can be able to identify such a person to be the first person to use. Yes.
All right. Now, when it comes to just reassuring your child, and let me just get your opinions on this, Abok. The role that reassurance plays from the parent, especially the role that just you as a parent reassuring your child has to do, and especially looking at the fact that you have a critical role to remind them that this is just a grade and it doesn't really determine or predict or give a future that has been cast on stone. Your parent as a reassurer for your child.
Very important to reassure the child, because on the reassure they have an anxiety. Anxiety is...
All right, we seem to have lost Abok there, but we'll be getting back with him as we draw nearing to the close of this conversation. But let me just come to you, Penina. You know, as a parent, understanding that you have a very critical role in reassuring your child, and especially with the fact that the grade that they have gotten does not mean that their future is cast on this particular stone.
Yeah, grades are just grades, and you can get other grades later, even better than that. So the most important thing as a parent, it's my position as a parent, is to show this child that this is not the end of the road. We can get something better. So we need to sit down and agree. Do you need to repeat? Do you need to go for this or this or this? And then on a mutual ground, it will be very easy, and the child will have accepted, and it will be very easy even for them to be very happy, even if there are two or one of them. You know, you may having two candidates at the same time.
Yes.
But let's say it's one. If you have overcome that and you have been able to sit down, agree together, and say this is the way to move on, that child will be able to even help others.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, as we close this conversation, I see Kezia here on Twitter saying parents need to stop lying to their children that they passed all the classes that they had. And I'm sure most of us have gotten to hear these stories. You know, our parents never failed. They need to start painting a realistic picture to our children about results. What do you have to say about this? You know, parents who have painted a very picture-perfect experience in their time when they were in that age.
Yeah, people that doesn't like to say the truth, but it's good to speak the truth. If you find even they are done better than what you did, congratulate them. I'll tell them that you did better than I did, and I accept this. So what you can be able to do better, I'll support you to do this. But now saying lies is not good.
Okay.
But it happens. It happens.
All right. I also see Linda saying parents should also normalize allowing their children to choose their own path. Yeah. If they want to go to college, let them go to college. If they want to start working, let them work. Si lazima kila mtu apitie college just because you did or because society dictates that. And I'm told Abok is back with us online, and maybe Abok, you could respond to this. Parents allowing their children to either seek employment immediately after high school or go to college, allow them to do that and just not force them to do what they think they should do because society says so.
Allowing children to do what they want to do after college, if I get you right?
Yes, you know, for those who want to seek employment immediately, to be allowed to do so, and if they want to continue with college, to also be allowed to do so and not stick to the script that society has.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to help the child to bring out the best out of them. And this can only be done when there is a proper assessment of the child by, you know,
All right, ni kama simu ya Boki imekataa tumalize show na yeye, but nonetheless, we've actually come to the end of the program. But as we close this conversation, Penina, maybe your closing remarks to our youngsters who are watching us this morning, the parents who have children who sat for either the KCP or KCSE exams, and just understanding that they have to work together to help the child move forward. What would you tell them?
Yeah, this is my final remarks to the parents. It's good to work together with the children, have dialogue with the child, especially this time because of the pressure and the peer pressure that we have. It's not like our own times when it was not as it is today. So if it is possible, have time with the children, have dialogue with them, and talk about what is happening. For those who have failed, that's not the head of the road. That's just a grade. And maybe something happened to you during exam and you are not able to get it. There is always a way. You can bridge, you can go to diploma, you can go to TVET, and there's always a way. And God will give you the way out.
All right,
Yes.
There you have it. I have nothing much to add on to that. We have been speaking with Penina Maluli, who is the director of Star with Pearl. And we've also been speaking with Fred Abok, who is a mentor, a motivational speaker, and a counseling psychologist as well, who had joined us via Zoom. This has been all about dealing with disappointment and more specifically, coping with exam result stress. Help your child navigate these waters, and at the end of the day, you will both live to appreciate your efforts during this space and time. On behalf of the Good Morning Kenya crew, we want to wish you a lovely day ahead as you enjoy the rest of your viewing. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning right here on KBC for another fantastic edition of Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jin Wambui. Have a lovely day.